Coming up on Arirang News, South Korean President Moon Jae-in unveils an ambitious plan dubbed the Korean New Deal, aimed at making the country a global leader and building an economy that's fair and eco-friendly. The minimum wage in South Korea is going up next year by the smallest amount on record. Well short of the 10,000 won an hour demanded by labor, it'll be about $7.25. And South Korea summons Japanese officials to protest Japan's latest false claims to Dokdo Island, South Korea's easternmost territory. It's the 16th year in a row Japan has repeated the claim. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea is protesting Japan's latest attempt to falsely claim South Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo as Japanese territory. The claim was made on Tuesday in Tokyo's new Defense White Paper. The Foreign Ministry in Seoul said in a statement that Japan needs to realize that repeating what it called such a preposterous claim will not help their bilateral relationship. Both the Foreign and Defense Ministries summoned Japanese officials and demanded that Japan immediately correct the claim, which it's now made for 16 years in a row. South Korea reported 33 new cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday as imported infections continue to rise. Of the new cases, 19 were imported, with 12 detected at quarantine checkpoints. 14 were transmitted locally, with 7 reported in Seoul and 9 in Gyeonggi-do province. Total cases now stand at 13,512. There were no additional deaths, so the death toll remains at 289. More than 24,000 people are currently being tested. The U.S. is expecting to start producing doses of a potential COVID-19 vaccine by the end of the summer. According to CNBC on Monday, a senior U.S. official said that the manufacturing process is already underway, although it is uncertain which vaccine, if any, will work. He said that drug makers have started buying equipment and raw materials and securing production sites. The Trump administration has selected 4 potential vaccines, but the official said that the list could grow. On the list are biotech company Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, both of which are likely to begin the next stage of human trials by the end of the month. Health officials are aiming to deliver some 300 million doses by early 2021. North Korea has taken delivery of thousands of face masks and COVID-19 test kits. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies says 4,000 masks and 10,000 test kits arrived last week, and protective suits and gene amplification testers are en route. The masks and test kits are currently going through quarantine checks. They'll then be distributed by the Red Cross Society of North Korea. The UN gave the supplies an exemption from sanctions in February. The IFRC say that if the virus spreads in North Korea, millions of people in need of humanitarian aid could be in danger. President Moon Jae-in today unveiled his administration's grand plan for a Korean New Deal, which he said amounts to a transformation of the country into a global pace setter. Unveiling the blueprint this afternoon, the president said South Korea is going to invest over $130 billion by 2025 to create 1.9 million jobs that better meet the country's future needs and that embrace 2 main pillars, digital and green.
한국판 유질은 선도국가로 도약하는 대한민국 대전환 선언입니다. 추격형 경제에서 선도형 경제로, 탄소 의존 경제에서 저탄소 경제로, 불평등 사회에서 포용 사회로 대한민국을 근본적으로 바꾸겠다는 정부의 강력한 의지입니다.
President Moon introduced 10 main projects that'll be part of the grand plan, including a digital dam, AI government, smart medical infrastructure, green remodeling, green energy, and eco-friendly future mobility. Particularly in the digital sector, the president said that the aim is to become #1 in the world through bold and preemptive investments in various areas, such as education and medical. In regards to the Green New Deal, he stressed that it will entail responding to climate crises and will include ways to protect the environment while at the same time boosting industrial competitiveness. Moon noted that an underlying condition is that through the process, South Korea is able to reduce inequality and become an inclusive society. He promised aggressive fiscal spending and investments for the future, saying that people will be able to feel these changes before the end of his term in 2022. South Korea next year will be raising its minimum wage by 1.5%, the smallest increase to date. The decision was contentious, labor and business far apart in their demands, and having to take into account the pandemic's impact on the economy. Kim Da-mi reports.
South Korea's minimum hourly wage for 2021 has been set at 8,721, which is around $7.25. That's the smallest ever on-year increase in South Korea's history, just 1.5%. Monday's decision came during the 9th plenary meeting of the Minimum Wage Commission, which consists of 9 members, each from the 3 sides representing employers, employees, and those representing social interests. The increase is the smallest since the minimum wage was first introduced in South Korea in 1988. The minimum wage last year also rose by a record low of 2.9%. The low rise is largely due to the economic fallout and uncertainties triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. The decision also considered local SMEs and small business owners hit hard by the crisis.
We believe employers, employees, and those representing society's interests did their best at pooling their wisdom to overcome the emergency situation.
This year's negotiations were especially grueling because there was a huge gap in the proposals put forward by employees and employers. Employees wanted a 16.4% increase to 10,000 won, while employers sought a 2.1% cut to 8,410 won. The Commission will present the new minimum wage to the Labor Minister, and the Minister must make an official announcement by August 5th. If approved, the new minimum wage will take effect on January 1st, 2021. However, the minister can ask the Commission to reconsider, but that situation has never happened before. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
Asia's first Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training is going to be opened in South Korea. The Trade Ministry and the Health Ministry signed an agreement for the project on Tuesday. The government plans to invest roughly $50 million of the budget over the next 6 years to establish training facilities. The project aims to support the bio industry by training talent to resolve imbalances in staffing. The ministries expect the institute will act as a platform connecting businesses, schools, and other research institutes. Also, they expect the institute will contribute to job creation by attracting investment from both home and abroad. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you as always for coming on.
Thank you for having me always.
Well, on Wall Street, the Nasdaq has seen an incredible rally in the past few months, much like Korea's Kosdaq, but overnight it was the biggest loser of the 3 big indices, down more than 2%. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, as you said, Wall Street main index rose on Monday at the beginning, and Nasdaq was hitting a record high again. Investors were anticipating that the earnings report will be relatively better than any other stocks, resistance showing to the COVID-19 environment. However, though, as the day gone by, the news of the closing down the business environment, for example, the Florida and the California, they all talk about the restriction of the indoor operation for shopping malls, fitness centers, and place for worships, and all the schools were supposed to be opening up with the internet related courses rather than any actual activities. That resulted into the negative sentiment developing within the market, and that caused quite a bit of a tumble for most of these stocks. If you look at the Nasdaq intraday, it was as high as 2% up and actually closed at 2% down. So one day swing of close to 4%. The Dow Jones gained slightly by 0.1%. In the contrast, the S&P lost about 0.9%, and NASDAQ plunged by 2.1%.
Well, Korean stocks down today too, both the Kospi and the Kosdaq. What happened in the domestic markets?
Yes, with this news of U.S. showing correction, Korea kind of followed the suit. The Korean stock slipped Tuesday following their U.S. peers lower amid the fresh Sino-American tension that's happening and resulting into the overall economic condition being quite weak. And rising COVID-19 cases is causing concerns for the economic recovery. And that has resulted into crude oil prices falling and also Kospi index declining by about 0.6%, and Kosdaq was down by about 0.7%. Particularly the leader of the overall market rise in the past has been the reason for the market down today, as Neighbor Corp contributed the most to the losses of the index decline, as it declined by 3.9%. Also, there's a news of the President Moon's announcing the New Deal program for 160 trillion won worth of additional boosting measures, and it will be helping out the overall recovery from the pandemic by reshaping the economy and around the technology. Obviously, a lot of the investments will be made by the central government. They'll be shouldering 114 trillion won worth of new spending plan, while the local government and private sector will be contributing 25.2 trillion won and 20.7 trillion won. Government wishes to push the new creation of jobs by 367,000 jobs in telecommunication networks, artificial intelligence, and other data-intensive industries by 2025. Overall, this is definitely positive news, but I think the sentiment was negatively affected because of the U.S. correction. We think, though, a lot of these measures are definitely positive news for the global Korean economy, and therefore, if there is any correction, we think that it will not last for a very long period of time. Clearly, additional liquidities, huge liquidity in the system, plus the fiscal policies would have positive implications for the equity movement in the future.
Well, you mentioned oil prices there. We're watching now to see what the oil-producing countries decide to do later this week in terms of increasing output. Ahead of that, oil prices down about 1%. What's your outlook for oil?
Yes, as I said, the oil is pressured by on the both side of production as well as the demand side. The production obviously is because of the shale gas additional production that's been put in by the U.S. companies. As for the demand side, the COVID-19 is affecting quite negatively as the paradigm shift is happening between gasoline cars to the electric cars. However, furthermore, if you look at the what California Governor Gavin Newsom ordered is that they'll be closing indoor operation for several businesses, and clearly that puts a negative sentiment, and that might be happening not just for California, but maybe Florida and other major states. So if that is the case, then clearly the oil price would have a difficult time to rise further. We were anticipating anywhere between $30 to $40 range, but because at least the economy is improving somewhat, we think that that range bound has risen slightly. So we're probably looking at somewhere between $35 to $45 oil price range in the future. Hopefully we'll see some of the recovery happening despite the pandemic issues as the new drugs come out and vaccines come out in the future. We do think that the economic growth rate of U.S. as well as global economy to recover in the third quarter and particularly in the fourth quarter. If that's the case, then oil price would have a relatively better demand. But nevertheless, the paradigm shift is there, and therefore box range will be most likely, and we're looking at somewhere between $35 to $45 range over the next 6 months.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
South Korea's car production has been hit hard by COVID-19, but it's still done better than its global rivals. According to the Trade Ministry, around 1.6 million units were made here in the first 6 months of this year. That's down 20% from the same period last year. Still, Korea actually moved up in the global production rankings, climbing from 7th to 4th. Korea's car exports also plunged by around 33% on year over the same period, but domestic sales were up by more than 7%, and exports of electric and hydrogen vehicles soared by 82% and 68%, respectively. With more people staying home because of the pandemic, South Korea has seen a decline in card spending. According to the Bank of Korea, payments made with cards in the period from February to May fell 2.1% compared to the same period last year. This is only the fourth time card spending has seen an on-year drop since records began in 2003. Spending on credit cards was down 3.8% and on debit cards 0.1%. But prepaid card spending rose almost tenfold because prepaid cards is how the government issued people their relief money. The Trump administration plans to soon end a deal that enables Chinese firms to be listed in the U.S. by, in theory, allowing the U.S. authorities to access documents from Chinese auditors. In practice, however, according to the U.S. agency in charge of it, access to these documents is not being granted by the Chinese side. The State Department says the matter is a national security issue because it puts American shareholders at risk. One of the larger Chinese firms listed in the U.S. is Alibaba. Talk of revoking the deal could be a sign of a more direct crackdown on Chinese firms. That brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.